The extraordinary is in what we do, not who we are.
We're locked in a cramped space here with Karl, who's from Crystal Dynamics, and Lara, of course. It's a new Lara. Could you get back to the decision why you wanted to make a reboot for the franchise?
Yeah, as a studio, we sort of took over the mantle of Tomb Raider from Core Design, and we created Legend, Anniversary, and Underworld, and then a little title called Guardian of Light. And really, when we finished those titles, we thought, let's put our stamp on the Tomb Raider franchise. Let's go back and tell a story which has never been told of before. One where a young, innocent, sort of determined and gritty girl became the infamous Lara Croft that we may have seen or heard of in past years. So it was something which we believed that would bring a sort of whole new perspective to the franchise, something which we could build sort of an emotional character, a side that we may have never ever seen before.
Something that you mentioned before I listened in on another interview here, which is cheating, was the fact you compared it to James Bond and how he's changed over the years to take on different roles and to remain relevant. Could you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think we did a lot of research, a lot of exploration, and asked a lot of questions to a lot of very talented people who've done it all before to try and make sure that in doing this, because it's a very important thing, it's a lot of burden on our shoulders to take an icon like Lara Croft and say, we're going to reimagine it. So to do that, we did a lot of research, looking at, obviously, movies and titles such as James Bond were key to it. James, back in the 60s, was relevant to that audience. He was a bit of a ladies' man, a bit of a license to kill, got himself into very precarious situations, you know, and he always had this evil guy after him. And as that went through its sort of ages, into the 70s, into the 90s, even into early 2000s, sometimes the model didn't change enough and became less relevant. And now we see Daniel Craig sort of donning that James Bond moniker, but in a very different way, in a way that's more visceral, more sort of directed at the audience, that's making it culturally relevant. So for us, James Bond was a great example of saying, how can you take something that has pillars? So he still has a license to kill. He's still ultimately James Bond, but he's relevant to today. So we looked at things like that and thought, how can we embody that in the Tomb Raider franchise?
And that takes us to those core elements that you feel are sort of core to Lara Croft. What do you feel needs to stay in a Tomb Raider game for it to be Tomb Raider?
So it's very important that we keep the core pillars of a Tomb Raider experience. So the sort of the dynamic traversal and exploration, combat, which we'll talk about later in the year, we're very excited to show very soon, and also the smart resourcefulness of Lara, about how she comes into situations and manipulates and looks at how to overcome using the building blocks and physics in the world. So when we talk about that aspect of it, it's not too dissimilar to the original pillars of what it is to be Tomb Raider. We wanted to make sure from the very outset that there was key things that would inherently make you feel like this is a Lara Croft experience and this is what it's like to Tomb Raid. So we made a very conscious decision that we weren't going to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, right, that's it, let's redefine everything, let's try something new and be competitive. We said, nope, we need to remember who we are. We need to remember that players love Tomb Raider, they love the experience, we just need to make it culturally relevant.
You have sort of touched on the fact there's going to be more open areas later on in the game, not them that you showed at the press conference, but I was a little bit surprised to learn that you're actually building on the same technology that you have been building on previously. This isn't a brand new engine that you're working on.
This is the same engine that we've built Legend, Anniversary, and Underworld, and even Guardian of Light, which is the strangest thing, given it's an isometric co-op game. But I think that the key to us is that we have a very stable, very robust engine. The team back at Crystal Dynamics who work on the engine are extremely talented. When we start looking at the concept of what we wanted to do with Tomb Raider, we wanted to bring it, it was all about physics, it was all about emotion, it was about building these open hub systems that allowed the player to feel like, I have the freedom to explore. I'm not sort of locked into this binary ledge to ledge. So really it was about understanding the vision that we want for Tomb Raider, and what you see today is about a collaboration of the studio coming together in many different disciplines and saying, let's bring it to life. Engine was one of them, and it was core to this, this vision.
Would you say that, that this game is like ideas that you've taken all along the road from Legend that you said, oh, this doesn't really fit, we can't really realize this now, and then you bring it into this reboot?
we looked at other Tomb Raider games, and of course there were certain things in those Tomb Raider games which we felt you may be able to extract, and we put them all in the stack. We looked at them and we thought, these are things that we wanted to realize back then, but are they really that relevant? So rather than just picking them and saying, let's do that, we decided, let's create the experience and the story and sort of that visceral exploration, that dynamics of emotion that we want right now. And if there's certain things that we maybe left on the table back then worked, then we'd look at them. Right now, we've gotten into the whole flow of, this is our vision, this is what we want to try and portray. We still have a ways to go, so I'm not sure whether or not we may dip back in, but I think the key thing is that this is a very new and a very unique experience for us. It's not something that we've ever talked about or done before. This is a fresh approach to what it is to be Lara Croft and Tomb Raider.
So something that you've added is the survival thing that Lara can sort of identify objects and things that help her in the environment. And that's something that's coming in a lot of different games in a lot of different shapes. Like for instance the Hitman game over there, they've got their instinct where you can sort of see what people are or what guards are going, and you got Assassin's Creed where you have a similar sort of eagle vision kind of thing going. Why did you want to create this, and is it something that modern gamers sort of don't have the patience to sort of slowly get their way to an objective and know what to do?
No, I think in our case, when we looked at the concept of the game and we decided that it was about a character trying to find out who she is, trying to find out that, you know, there's an opportunity to evolve her to the point where she becomes this iconic character, we said, let's put it in an isolated environment, let's put it on this island off the east coast of Japan, and let's build an experience that we see a different side. We see an emotional side to our character. We see a side that we've never ever explored before. So in the demo that you saw today, you saw her doubt herself, debate her own abilities. Now, when she lands on the island at first, she's totally inexperienced. She's never done any of this before. She's maybe been on some small adventures, but this, something very different. So it was all about how to survive. So when you put that lens of survival over everything you do, you have to go through the building blocks of just explaining to the people and to gamers that this is how the world operates. It operates just like the real world. Physics is king for us. So I think over time, survival instinct will start to fade away a little bit. Right now, it's imperative that we have some sort of mechanism in there for you to be able to look at the world and understand how it works. We ideally want the player to get to a point in time where they step back and go, you know what? I don't need survival instinct because I understand the world. I've reached a point where I now know what's going on. I know what's around the corner. I know how to manipulate these objects. You've already taught me that. So I think in some games they use it constantly. We haven't made the decision yet whether or not it was something that would run through the entire game, but certainly right now it works to that building block syndrome of sort of teaching the player at this early stage how certain factors that you really need to understand and how they work.
All right, one final question for you. The release date is set for fall 2012, so you got quite a way to go. Could you talk us through a little bit like what you're going to reveal next and when we can expect to hear more about Tomb Raider and where you're at in development?
So in the development stage, we're now into full production. We finished our Vertigo Slice back earlier in the year. And I think the goal of coming out right now and talking about Tomb Raider was all about how do we set the foundation for our new character? How do we make people understand there's a very different side to it? Once people digest that and gamers kind of understand that vision, we'll go quiet for a few months, and then when we come back, the next stage will be all about full-on exploration. We want to show you how our character has the freedom to be an explorer and an adventurer and move around that world. Anything after that, you're going to have to wait and see because there's some very big secrets that we're going to reveal later on. But right now, I think we're very happy about the way in which people are understanding our vision. A lot of the fans have been very complimentary in all territories. I've just gotten back from Germany, so I've had a lot of German fans Twitter me and email me to sort of say, can you come and show me the game whilst I'm there? So I'm very happy how things are going right now.